Are you looking for a secular science homeschool curriculum for elementary school ages? Today, I'm taking you through Blossom and Root. This is our favorite science curriculum, and it can be super overwhelming. Last year was our first year using it, and I will admit I made tons of mistakes along the way. And once we got into about halfway through the year, I really found a way that works on how to organize the curriculum, what books to buy, how to pick what we're gonna do, what we're not gonna do. So today I'm breaking down our whole process, plus flipping through the Blossom and Root Level 2 Plant and Fungi Kingdoms. And if we haven't met, my name is Brandi. I'm a homeschooling mom, full-time working mom, and I have a 7-year-old going into 2nd grade and a 2-year-old that's joining us for, let's just call it tot schooling. Very gentle preschool type activities that we're gonna be involving him into our homeschooling routine. So chances are, if you're watching this, you have either looked into Blossom and Root or you're looking for a science curriculum for homeschooling. And I can honestly say that I truly believe that Blossom and Root has the best science curriculum out there. I've looked in so many, and we just fell in love with how she really tackles the curriculum. We also use that for our language arts. So if you didn't watch the video, I'll make sure to link it up where I go over our whole 2nd grade curriculum, but we used Blossom and Root last year for 1st grade, and we're gonna continue using it for science and language arts going into 2nd grade. But one thing with Blossom and Root last year that I made a big mistake was trying to do it all. She gives you so many things in the curriculum to choose from. Wonderful book list, beautiful book list, also a ton of activities, and I really thought that we needed to do everything. And I just got overwhelmed and we stopped doing it. Now, 3rd term of 1st grade year, we did do a rainforest unit study that I completely put together because we were preparing for Costa Rica. If you'd love to see that unit study, just leave a comment below. So we did get away from it, but it was more because I was just trying to do everything. And one of the things that I really learned last year homeschooling was just because you have all the options doesn't mean you need to do everything. So once we got into a groove, we decided to do things a little bit different going forward in 2nd grade and for the rest of term 3. So I'm gonna show you how I plan this and take you through what we're doing and how we're kind of rearranging the wonders to fit where we live so we can get as many hands-on activities as possible. Okay, so what are we looking at? We are looking at the parent guide of Level 2, Blossom and Root, and it's the Wonders of the Plant and Fungi Kingdom. This is the parent's guide. Last year, I thought I was just gonna use it on the iPad. It didn't work, I'm sure it did. I don't like having the iPad out when we're homeschooling. I think it's a little bit of a distraction. And then I tried to print them out as we went, and it just wasn't very efficient. And so this year I did print everything out, and then I just bound it at home using our little machine that we have. So I have that. And then this is another thing that we didn't do last year is when we were doing last year's curriculum, we used the School Nest 1st grade notebook, and we were just putting everything in there. And one thing that we wanted to do was flip back and see different science experiments, but we were flipping through a history and handwriting and copy work and everything. And so it just got a little bit messy. And so this year we decided to print out the notebook and have our own notebook where we can document each wonder that we're doing. So each week we'll have some type of documentation or something that we do inside of here. And then we'll have our full notebook just for science, which I'm excited about because we did a lot of fun experiments in year 1. We did the geode where we cracked them open and saw the crystals. We did the volcano and things like that. And I wish we would have just put them in the notebook so she could write about what she experienced and what that was. And we did do that. It just wasn't as concise. So we're doing that this year. So the first 2 things I do when I get Blossom and Root is I download all the files. And then if you buy the whole bundle, you get the literature section. So that's totally separate. If you want to see how we plan that, leave a comment and I can make that video. But with science, you get the science, then you also get book seeds and you get nature study. I will say we don't do the nature study. I tried to last year and it just felt our nature study became too school, where now when we go out, we walk all the time, we go on hikes, and we just like to go. I don't want to have an agenda, so we don't do the nature study. Sometimes I'll flip through and see if there's an activity we want to do because it's relevant to the season or something like that. And then there's book seeds, which take you deeper. As I was going through, there's 2 book seeds this year that we may fit in somewhere if we can. And one of them's about peanuts, George Washington Carver. We're in Georgia, big time peanut community. And in September, they have a peanut festival. And with us traveling, we're gonna see if we can make it work. If we do, we may dive into that book seed a little bit. And then there's one on gardening and then recessive genes and things like that. She is super into the body study right now. So if she decides that, hey, I wanna go into like the recessive genes and DNA and stuff like that, we'll do that maybe as a unit study at the end of the year. I don't know if we'll like actually plan those in currently, but you do get book seeds to go deeper on some topics. Then you get the nature study, and then you get the science curriculum. So I'm just focused on the science curriculum today. That's what we're gonna do. So just like in the other video you saw, I used this, and I'm gonna actually link it up below. It's Ambleside's chart, but then I like actually go and delete everything off there. I just like the columns and stuff. So I can give you my Google Doc. I'll link that below for you so you have that. But this is where I start to plan out our wonders. So step 1, download the documents. Step 2 is to bind them, print them out, however you want to do it. I like the paper copies, and you'll see why. And then step 3 is I'm going to look at the book list, and I'm going to make my book decisions. Now she has the main book list on the download that you can see the free sample, so I can show you that. And when I come in here, I go to the book list. And first we're going to start with the spines. And so she gives you 3 options. You don't need to purchase all 3 of them. That's another mistake I made last year, is purchasing everything when we didn't really need it. So when I was looking at this, I was like, okay, I'm only gonna purchase 1. That's it, just 1. Homeschooling problems. I purchased 2. And then also one of the spines is available at our library. So I did see that it's available. So I made note, we may grab it just for when we're talking about certain things. But one of the ones I really wanted was the plants and fungi. I love DK. And this is our main spine. Like this is gonna be the one that we use the majority of as the spine. When I was looking through and flipping through, I fell in love with this one. We love having these books just laying around because my daughter and my son will just come up and want to look at the pictures. So we always have these laying around. So I picked with this one. She does note that this is better for advanced middle elementary learners and upper elementary, but I'm good with that. So that means we can use it even when they're older. And then I was like, okay, that's all I'm gonna get. That covers everything. But then I saw this one. I saw it and I was like, oh man, the gold pages and everything. And now that I know there's an animal one too, I went on and got this one because it's so beautiful. Like the illustrations are so beautiful. And this was one of the other ones she picked, but the only thing with this one and why I didn't go with this one as our main is because it doesn't have anything for the fungi. So this one doesn't include anything once you get to the fungi lessons, and that's weeks 29 through 36. So that's a big chunk. This one does include all of those. So this one is like our main spine, and then we're gonna use this one throughout just because it's so pretty. Like they're just so pretty. So I wanted this book. So we ended up getting both of these. And if you see any of these little tags, this is how we organize our library. If you want to see how we organize over 300 books, let me know and I can give you a tour of like our library. So those are our 2 main spines that we're going to be using. And then another book that she recommends, it's highly recommended. It's not part of the main spines, but it is highly recommended, is When Plants Took Over the Planet. And when I saw this, it was a no-brainer because we did prehistory. We have the other 2 books that are part of this series. It's 3 ones. One's about evolution and when humans became humans or something, and when whales walked. And then this is the 3rd one, When Plants Took Over. So since we already had the other 2 series, we really like those. We went on and grabbed this one as well. So those are our 3 main spines that we're using. Then she gives you all the book lists that you have for the entire year based on the wonders. So she says here's the books that I recommend for wonders, and she tells you like multiple. So with the multiples, we actually went on and bought those because a lot of them we had. So When Plants Took Over the Planet, we have the other 2, so we bought them. Then we have this series. So anytime it's a series. We're gonna go in and buy it because last year I made the mistake of buying all the books, and we have a lot of books. And we love books. Even before homeschooling, we had a ton of books. But the problem is, like, we buy books and then we wouldn't like love them, and then we have them. So now the rule is, if we have a series, we're gonna complete the series. Also, if we get a book from the library and we really, really like it, then we'll purchase it. So that's kind of our going, what books do we purchase, which ones don't we? So we love this collection. As you can see, maybe behind me, we have the anatomy one anyway. But since we already have the Welcome to the Museum series, we went on and bought these two. So these are two of the suggested books that you'll use throughout. We already have this whole collection of books. So this is one of her recommended, but we already have all the Julia Rothman books. So we have these already, so that was great. And then the Tree for Kids and Their Grown-Ups. We already had this book. I think I bought it last year. I don't know if it was for Blossom and Root or when we first started doing nature study, we were doing Treehouse Nature Study, and this book was part of it. So those are the ones that we already had. I pulled them off our shelf, and we have a library app. So I was able to go in and look up these books to see if in my personal library we have those books. And then, so that's with the pink. And you'll see that I write prices too, because I do go to like thrift books and Amazon and see how much the prices are, so I can price out like which ones am I gonna get now, which ones can wait, that kind of thing. And then in blue, I went through and highlighted the books that our library had. So I looked up all the books, and any of them that our library had, I went on and did in blue, so I know that they're at the library. Now, the ones that aren't highlighted are ones that I'm just not gonna do. And so that is one mistake I made last year, is thinking I needed to have every single book that Blossom and Root suggested, and it's just not feasible financially. It's not feasible from a time standpoint. So we're gonna get as many books as we can based off of the library and the books that we decide we're gonna purchase. And like some of these, Fletcher and the Falling Leaves, we already have that book. So some of these we already had, and then some of them we're just not gonna get, and that's okay. But then I also made notes. So what if there were no bees? This one we don't have, but there's a free audio book. So that one I'm gonna do on audio. Our daughter loves the audiobook, so we're gonna be doing that on audio. And then I also found ones that were on the Kindle that we could do, that we have Kindle Unlimited. So I wrote Kindle, because those are on the Kindle. So if we're on the go or something like that, we can just read those from the Kindle while we're traveling or something like that, instead of actually buying them and taking up space in our house. So that's the first step, is I go through and I start making notes of which books we already have, which ones our library has, and which ones that we are gonna invest in. And then any that aren't highlighted, we're just skipping. And then how I do it from a financial standpoint is we set a budget for our monthly budget for homeschooling. And so that budget, either we use it or it rolls into the next month. And so with that, I know that if in 2 months we have books coming up and it's a bunch of them that we don't already have, I'll go through and like here, once we get to mushrooms, we have like Mushroom Rain, $15, Humongous Fungi, $9, Run, $6, the Mushroom Fan Club, $14. So I'll start to see that and be like, okay, I'm gonna use X amount of our budget towards these books coming up. And that's why I write the prices in there, so I can kind of like be planning how this fits in our budget. So I don't have all the books. I don't at the beginning of the year buy all the books. I buy them as we go. And that helps with our budget. It helps us make sure, is this a book we really need? Is this one we can skip? So that's how I start the process, is I print it out, I bind it, I go through the book list, do deep research on that. And now's when I plan out, how are we doing the wonders? So the great thing about Blossom and Root is you don't have to go in order, which is really nice, especially when you're doing something science, especially when it's very hands-on. You can get out and experience it, which is why we love Blossom and Root, because that's big for us. We don't want to just, with science, we don't want to just be doing workbooks. There's some things that's totally fun to do workbooks, math, things like that. But when we get into science, we really want it to be like experimental and hands-on. And so if I can move things around to make sense, where we can do something hands-on, that's what I'm gonna do. And so in here, she talks about, hey, you should probably do weeks 1 through 4 or 1 through 3 in order. Like they should probably be in order. So that's what I did. And then I'm gonna go through all the topics and see which one makes the most sense for our family. So when you see this, you can see that I highlight ones in blue. That means they're already scheduled. So I have plans for that. I know when it's gonna happen. And then I actually put our week, school week here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, then that's week 15, 16, 17, 5, 18, 19. And then we get over here and we go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the reason that I do this is because I want to make sure that it makes sense for the season that we're in. So we start school the beginning of July. So we're gonna start, the first 4 weeks are just like the setup for plants, living sunlight, plant anatomy, ancient plants. And then we get into where I start to make some changes, which is where we go into trunks, bark, and tree rings. I think that was just like, hey, I need a placeholder, so let's put that in. And then I'm looking at, when I'm doing this, I do have my resource that I already showed you here, and up top, I try for the first term to have our weeks pretty much planned out. So I can see July 7th is week 1, July 14th, week 2, and then I know like when we get into September and October. So that helps me plan for the sciences and things, so I know when we can do our field trips. So with that being said, when I was looking into doing plants, I knew that we wanted to do fungi in the fall for Georgia because we can go foraging. There's a cute little shop 45 minutes away that does like a ton of stuff with fungi, but the best time to do that is in the fall. So when I was looking at this, I was like, okay, so week 7, we are in September. So we start to get into the fall. So that's when we're gonna start our fungi lesson, and those go from week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 8 weeks of fungi. So we start fungi on September 8th, and that will get us into the beginning of November. So then at the bottom, when I do like field trips, hands-on experiences, I have here week 9 through 12 foraging. So I know that that's when I need to schedule that foraging field trip, is sometime around that. There's also a lot of areas where we can go around here and do nature walks in September and October where mushrooms and fungi are very, very prevalent. So that's why I moved those to the front instead of the back half of our year. And then when I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, so I have that scheduled, but now we're getting into November. And so what do I want to do? Of course, we want to talk about like leaves and stuff. So then when I go in here, week 15 is stems, bulbs, and roots. And that's because November is when we do our bulbs. So we'll be planting tulips. So that's why I have those week 15, then 16 we get in leaves. That's usually when our fall starts to come, is the end of October, beginning of November. Then we get into needles. We have tons of pine trees around here. And then we get into evergreen and deciduous, and then conifers. And that's through week 19 for us. So that'll probably get us to December. And so then I don't have anything else scheduled yet because I want to see where we're falling with our weeks before I schedule anything else. But then as I'm looking at the wonders, I can see, oh, okay, when we get into flowers, pollinators, fruits, seeds, those are things that I want to make sure are done in the spring, because then when we get to pollinators, that's when we are getting our bees, and we want to talk about the flowers that we have. And then flowers will be in the spring, fruits will be in the seed to plant. Those are all things that we can do in the spring. So then when I get into probably it'll be term 2-ish. So once we get closer to that and I start looking at this, I'm gonna be like, which ones can we do in the winter? So there's succulents, carnivorous, plants we eat, plants that can heal, plants are handy. So those plant defenses, those are ones that are probably gonna be better to do in the winter. So that's why I'm rearranging them, so I can make sure our hands-on experiences are super, super involved, especially for science. That's important to us. So at a top level planning, that's how I plan it. I go through, I do my book list, I rearrange the wonders pretty much just like 19 weeks at a time. So I'll do the first, it's pretty much like almost the first half, and then I'll do the second half as we get closer to those and rework things. But then how do I do it on a weekly or monthly planning? So with this, what I'd like to do is sit down once every 6 weeks and do all of our planning. It ends up being once every 4 weeks. I sit down to once a month, but I plan out 6 weeks. That way, like, I'm never behind. I still, even at my monthly planning, I have 2 weeks that are already planned. So I sit down once a month, plan out 6 weeks. And when I'm looking at that, what I'll do, and I made sure that she shows this so I'm not sharing anything, is In the wonders, she gives, what is this about? Then she says, what's our big picture? And then we get into our vocabulary words. Last year we didn't do vocabulary words. This year we will be doing vocabulary words. And in Torchlight Level 1, we got when we were doing Ancients. And one thing that we didn't do is they have vocabulary games for the literature section. So this year we're actually going to do vocabulary games once a week on Fridays, but we're mixing in all of our vocabulary, whether it's from literature, science. We're going to play games around it. So I am going to be using these vocabulary words, and we're just going to put them on flashcards and not do like drills, but we're going to play games with them. So we're improving our vocabulary, and we're going to have games like how many times can we use it in a sentence throughout the week and things like that. So we're going to be using these vocabulary words this year. And then we get into it, and she has it broken down into the minimalist. So if you're someone who wants to do the bare minimum, the book basket folks, the visual learners, and the lab learners, and the student notebookers. So that's how she breaks it down. So when I'm looking at this, one thing is we're not just a lab family, we're not just a book family, we're not just a minimalist family. We have our weeks where that is where we're at. And so one thing I love is that she includes something for everyone, but we don't do everything. So if I'm looking at our calendar, I'm gonna look at this sheet when I'm playing. So I take this, and I'm saying, okay, so we're doing Wonder Sunlight, and I'll pull out my planner and I'll go through and decide what do I need to reserve from the library. So if I look, I'm like going and I'm like, okay, here's our book basket. And what we do with the book basket is we have one upstairs and then we put one downstairs. Downstairs where like our homeschool room is, the playroom, all that kind of stuff. And then upstairs is where our bedrooms are. So for the upstairs one, this is the ones that the book baskets are usually like picture books and like ones that are great for bedtime. And then the more sciencey ones with like lots of like diagrams and things like that, we leave downstairs. So she can pick them up at any time. Then she can pick a book out of the book basket for nights. And that's how we do the book basket. We always do the book basket. Like that is always have it. Do we get to all the books? No, but we always have a book basket with our science. And then with the minimalist, it's like pretty much the spines. So we typically like to do the spines. That's how we start the lesson every single week is with our spines. And then throughout the week, this isn't, hey, we're sitting down for science. I'll queue up a playlist on YouTube. So for the 6 weeks that I'm doing, I will queue up playlists and save the videos that she has. And I love that she does younger learners and advanced learners. I always do the younger ones because then the 2-year-old can hang out. He loves watching the videos too. And then I'll look at the older ones and see, do any of these look like something we would like? Yes, no. And if I think so, I'll throw them in there. So maybe it's like before dinner and it's that point where everyone starts to get a little fussy because they're hungry, but dinner's not ready yet. I'll put 1 or 2 of these videos on and we'll watch it as a family. As my husband and I are getting dinner ready, it entertains the kids, so I'll put those on. We're not necessarily sitting down and watching them at the science unless it's one that's, ooh, this would be good. But most of the time, these are ones that we're watching throughout our week. Then we get into the activities and labs. And I will tell you, this is one where I love the new format. She came out, this level 2 is new. Level 1, she came out halfway through when we were doing it and we switched and it was so much better. So the updated versions of level 1 and level 2, I love way better than the other ones. And she gives you different ones, activities based on your style. So for the outdoor learners, the table lab crowd, the craft and projects, and so I love that there's different ones. So I will pick based on, does this look like it's gonna need a lot of me? Am I gonna have to buy a lot of supplies? I don't really wanna do that. I wanna make this as easy as possible, but as hands-on as possible as well. If you're with me with that, say I'm with you, because I am just not someone who wants to go out and buy a bunch of stuff for these labs. Okay, so when I'm looking, I'd go to week 1 and I'm like, okay, what are all the labs that we could do? So the first one's hike, do a hike, and then she gives you some instructions on the hike. And then there's instructions for the table lab crowd, observing oxygen release during photosynthesis. And then there's the poster for the craft family, all webs start with plants, so it's a like food web. And then those are the 3 that she has for that one. So when I look at this, I usually pick one, but with this one, we go on hikes all the time. So I think this is a great way to kick off our school year, is at the end of the week, that Saturday, go on a hike. So I'm totally good with that. So we're gonna do that. It's probably gonna be on the Saturday. We'll go hike, and I think there's a scavenger hunt or something, so we can do that. So that's great. But then I was looking and I was like, oh, observing oxygen release, the supplies we need, 2 clear glasses, I got mason jars. Water, I got water. 2 green leaves, I can go outside and get some leaves. Magnifying glass, we have it. A sunny window seal and a dark closet, perfect. So this is one that I'll probably give her and her dad to do and be like, here's the instructions, y'all will do this, and they'll do that on a Friday. So I have everything. So if we have everything, I'm like, sweet. The poster, nope, not even, that does not sound appealing. That's something I'm gonna have to go buy some stuff. So we're not gonna do that. So that's how that works. And then we'll use the vocabulary and play games with that with all of our vocabulary. So that's just gonna be part of our games that we play. And then we get into Wonder Week 2, and she had this as the sample, so I'm gonna share with you, because as I was going through this, it's the same thing. I'm gonna put, okay, what are we gonna read? Here's the books I need to get. Then here's all the videos. I'm gonna throw them in a playlist. And then I'm gonna look once again at the activities. And I can see one, the messy, muddy model. I can already tell you I'm not doing that. And then she also on this one says, dive deeper into the book speed and book seed. So if you are someone who's gonna use those book seeds, she tells you like, hey, this would be a great place. So when I go in, now I'm gonna look and see what our options are. So the first one is the messy, muddy model. I didn't even look at this. It says muddy. I don't like mud. I'm not a messy mom type. Our mud kitchen is actually like soap and water. So not doing mud. Then we have the up close look at plant sales, and it's a green leaf and magnifying. Perfect. I can do that all day. And then she did an edible plant cell model. And here's the thing. I was like, oh man, I remember doing that in school. That was so fun and everything. And then I started looking at the supply list and I was like, no. And I think this is the thing as a homeschooling mom, you have to realistically ask yourself, is this gonna be worth it? Is it gonna really enhance their memories? And is it gonna stress me out? Or is this something I can do that's gonna enhance their memories plus not stress me out? And I've just learned I'm not gonna force myself to do everything under the sun because it becomes too much for me. I get stressed, it becomes too much for our daughter because she's trying to fit everything in. And so that is a big thing that I learned last year, is that's not how we work. Yes, that would probably be really cool, but also it's the second week back to school and I'd have to go buy a bunch of stuff and it looks like it's gonna be time consuming. So how can we still do it? We'll do up close look at plant sales. And then the table crowd one is one that says it'll take a couple weeks to complete. So I was like, nope, we're gonna skip that one. And then make plant cell window transparency. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe that gets flagged. But then I got to the Lego plant cell model and I was like, perfect. Because the Lego plant cell model is something she can do on her own. And that is one thing that we are trying to do, is empower her to do some of these things on her own. And one of the things that we found is that with our unit study we're doing right now on the body, there's Play-Doh mats where I printed them out, laminate them. That's something she can do on her own. Doing the Lego plant anatomy is something she can do on her own and then show us and we can take pictures. And so that is something we're gonna do. So with this one, we'll do the Lego plant anatomy and empower her to do that. And then we'll also do the up close look at plant sales. And so that's how I really go through and decide which ones we're gonna do. It really depends on how many supplies. Is this gonna cause a bunch of stress because we're gonna have to try to fit it in our schedule? Do I really need to do that? And then we'll also be recording everything in her notebook for each week. So that is exactly how I plan it out. I start with a very high level where I'm looking at all the books. I do all the book research at the beginning of the year so I don't have to worry about that each week. I rearrange the weeks, at least half the year, and then I'll do the second half when we get probably to December. And then every 6 weeks, or once a month. Then every month I'm sitting down and I'm going through and deciding which activities we're gonna do for the next 6 weeks and what supplies I need to get or anything like that. What field trips we're gonna do I need to book those? And then I'm sitting down and I'm getting all of our books out. And what I actually do is behind me, you'll see we have books. I start to put the books out for the next 4 weeks on those shelves. So they're available, they're ready. If she wants to go in and start flipping through, she can, and they're out there for us to start seeing. And I make my YouTube playlist. So that's how I've been tackling Blossom and Root science, and I hope this helps you with tackling science or deciding if Blossom and Root is right for you. One thing I love is you have a lot of options, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It means you can do too much, get overwhelmed, and it's also a good thing because it gives you options and flexibility. Like maybe we only do 1 project this week. Maybe we don't do any projects this week. Maybe we do 10 projects. Let's add some books. And so I love the flexibility that Blossom and Root gives. It's such a literature-rich science, plus also hands-on experiences. And so I love that about it. So I hope this helps you plan out your Blossom and Root science. And I will make sure to link up this document so you can grab that and start planning your week. And if you want to see any other deep dives in how we plan our years, weeks, or our literature for Blossom and Root, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to make that video for you. So go out and get planning, and I can't wait to hear what your science looks like this year.